As attendance for Comic-Cons around the globe spikes, we're seeing a new phenomenon develop of cosplaying. Today I'm going to discuss how nerds are changing the world, how cosplayers are changing the world, and exactly what cosplaying is. But first, that's better.
What is friendship all about? My little pony, friendship is magic. I used to wonder what friendship could be.
While there is a growing interest in cosplaying, it's still met with, let's say, awkwardness when faced with regular society.
As nerddom takes over pop culture more and more, we're seeing a shift in the interests of new generations. Now, instead of being as focused on sporting events and athletes, their interests are focusing more in on sci-fi and fantasy. In fact, millennials are 12% less likely to follow football as their Generation X counterparts. Our viewing patterns also expose our preference towards sci-fi fantasy.
Game of Thrones is now the most watched series on HBO, surpassing the previous champs, The Sopranos, with 18.4 million viewers.
While Star Wars has always been known for making a cultural impact, the full force of Star Wars Day has never been stronger.
With Vanity Fair jumping on the bandwagon this year by releasing their Star Wars-themed cover.
As the stereotypes of our past converge, it is not unheard of for an athlete to be considered a nerd today.
While both Tim Duncan and Steve Nash could be considered amazing athletes, they could also be considered nerds, as Tim Duncan is an avid D&D fan and Steve Nash competed in the EA Sports FIFA Championships in 2011.
I think we are seeing a shift away from the belief that nerd is a derogatory term. While there is a steady rise in nerd culture as a part of pop culture today, cosplaying is far from being standard or a part of the norm. In fact, there are still opponents against cosplaying.
One author for The Week describes cosplayers as disillusioned and unemployed. Using Japan as an example, he cites their poor job market as the reason for the escape into cosplay mimicry. He believes the lack of job opportunity is what turns these young people to pretending they are someone else somewhere else. Citing that this is a very bad thing for the Japanese economy, he mirrors their current job market with the US's and sees the rise of cosplaying as a natural and dangerous social movement.
Luckily, a contributor to Forbes quickly responded, saying that it seemed like a case of nerd-jock bias, using the example that sporting fans are just as likely to spend time in costume going to events that help them escape from reality as well.
According to Charles Dunbar, a graduate student doing his thesis on how cosplaying is a form of expressing one's authentic personal identity, the act of putting on the costume is similar to embracing the identity of the costume.
Doing so also forges an immediate connection with anyone else who identifies with the character or identifies with a character in the universe. Cosplaying today takes many different forms. There are those who prefer to buy their costume. There are those who prefer to buy individual articles of clothing and piece them together to create a costume. And there are those who prefer to work on their technical skills to create a cosplay outfit. Cosplaying can teach you the finer points of sewing as well as teach you how to create a pattern.
Most sewing projects start with a pattern which is used as a stencil when cutting the fabric.
When undertaking certain costumes, other technical skills may be required. When creating weaponry, jewelry, armor, wings, prosthetic makeup, or something crazy, various skills are required to proficiently complete each task. It is also interesting to note that the people who undertake these projects are what Tyler Cohen refers to as human capital bohemians, or people who do interesting things besides having mediocre or lackluster jobs. It is also interesting to note that there are 2 local women who were recently sponsored for becoming professional cosplayers.
Clearly, there is something more happening here than what meets the eyes. If all you see is a bunch of adults acting like children, you aren't truly understanding the creativity, passion, and soul that goes into these projects. Cosplaying is a way of showing the world your true, authentic identity while allowing you to have fun.